This conference will now be recorded.
Well, hello. This is JoAnn Forrester, the Empress of Viz, with her favorite co-host, Sal Acosta, the Duke of Business. And I get to do the thing that I love the most is talk to entrepreneurs, whether they're artists, whether they're scientists, whatever they are. This is a great gig, folks. And today I have a very favorite friend of mine who has a magnificent voice. And I'm going to read you a little bit of her bio. But one thing I wanted to start out is when you Google Jessica Lee, she has 7,960,000 mentions on Google. I just thought you'd like to know that. So, Jessica is recordings and music give voice to the themes and uplifting power of faith and hope. Believing in the power of music to connect and heal, Jessica also works entrepreneurial to bring music productions and programs to life, those in need of collaboration with musicians and organizations in Pittsburgh and nationally. Jessica recordings are included on international compilation albums, and she is currently working on her fifth solo album, which will honor and remember the great Maxine Sullivan, the jazz vocalist. And Jessica is also going to be featured in the 2021 and Maxine Sullivan and the Women of Achievement, Women's Voices, Heard Them Speak. Good morning, my friend. Thank you for getting up so early with us.
Hi, JoAnn. It's great to be here with you.
Now, I want to ask a question because you and I have known each other for a while. So.
Hey, listen, wait a minute. Everybody's breaking out the calculators and trying to backtrack into this, so don't do that.
Okay. Yeah. What started you? I mean, because you went to Duke University, and you became a lawyer. But how'd you combine both passions? I mean, what started you on the track?
Well, that's a great question, JoAnn, and hardly anybody asks that question, but it was all related to music. And so I was an undergrad at Duke University, and I went and did an informational interview with David Lang, who was then the entertainment law professor at Duke Law. And we talked, and he said, as an entrepreneurial musician, if you want to lead your own projects, as an entrepreneurial musician, you should get an MBA or a JD, a law degree if you can. And it will really help you to be a better business person to complement your professional musicianship, be a professional business person as well. So what I did was I thought long and hard about it. I applied just kind of for the heck of it to Duke Law. And I got a partial merit scholarship to go. And so that made it pretty attractive, and I did it. And it was really because of David Lang. And Duke had a rare entertainment law division, kind of courses in entertainment law. A lot of law schools don't have that specialty. So I decided I would focus on business, entrepreneurship, and entertainment.
Hey, Jessica, let me ask you a question, because I've been to some of your performances, as you know, at the Parley Lounge, and so kind of going down that path for a little bit. I know the ones that I've been into have like a business networking component. So I know you're trying to combine sort of art and music with business. So is that like an outgrowth of that? And maybe two questions. And the second question is, has your law background helped you in terms of the sort of admin and contractual aspects of being a musician, or is that something you actually either delegate to somebody else or is not that important?
I mean, those are terrific business questions, Sal, and I'll give you some answers, and we can go back and forth on these answers because they're there are several components to those answers. I think that, first of all, I always encourage everybody when they're thinking about their next steps in their careers to think about what you are truly passionate about, and that thing that you're willing to work really, really, really hard on and still have joy while you work really, really hard. So I tell everybody it's okay to be stressed if you're not bored. It's okay to be a little bored if you're not stressed. But if you're stressed and bored, you're doing the wrong thing. Don't be stressed and bored at the same time. So my passion, my number one passion is singing, uplifting music, inspiring through music. That's my number one passion, and connecting through music. And so to your point, I really realized that if I wanted to be an entrepreneurial musician and lead my own projects, I needed to work almost like you have a major in college, Sal, and you have a minor. And so for me, my major was my singing and my music, and my minor was business, entrepreneurship in my mind. And that's never changed. And I can put everything I do into one of those two components, the music bucket or the entrepreneurial bucket. And I can say that, you know, on the team building side, you mentioned a law degree and my business background. It has helped me immeasurably in my entrepreneurial music career. But I will tell people it was at a great sacrifice for 3 years, you know, and then in learning how to practice law as well, several years after law school, maybe 6 or 7, you know, you have to put some time in to understand the business of what you're doing and how business works. So to your point, there are certain things you need to just learn. You need to, it's not going to be the fun part. It's not going to be your main passion, but you need to learn it. And then number 2, this is the part where a lot of entrepreneurs fall down. You need to start delegating. You need to let go, and you need to build a team so that you can focus on the thing you really love and the thing you're really best at. So communication is one of my skills in business and in singing and music. And I've still, Sal, been learning that lesson about letting go and building the best teams that you can. And I have a surprise for you. JoAnn doesn't know this, but we talked about one of my newest entrepreneurial projects. I'm just coming out with a CD that was all live stuff pre-COVID, and then one live recording virtually with Mark Strickland during COVID. And it honors the late, great Maxine Sullivan, who was from Pittsburgh and influenced Ella Fitzgerald and Peggy Lee and others. And her nickname was the Pine-Sized Songstress. Well, on the theme of letting go, I'm not really good at doing certain parts of releasing a new album. Roy Ruzicka, JoAnn knows Roy. I don't know. Sal, do you know Roy Ruzicka, who's been a long time with me on my music operations side?
No, actually, I'm sorry, I don't.
He's out in Washington, PA. Great guy, big supporter of the arts. And he said, I have a passion for graphic design. Could I design the album cover for you? And, you know, we talk about teams. There are people who have passions and talents. And man, if you don't team up and use those, right, you're not going to be as strong. So here's his album cover. And you can see Maxine Sullivan, the Pine-Sized Songstress Returns. That's her nickname. And Roy did this, and I just got news that mid-November we should have the CDs and everything, and we'll start to use those for charitable purposes during this 100th year celebrating the women's right to vote and this innovative jazz singer, Maxine Sullivan. But Roy did a beautiful job. Mark Strickland arranged all those songs, and there's so many people involved. You know, Sal, when something is great, you have to learn how to be a team member rather than I do it all by myself person.
Absolutely. Let me ask you just a quick follow-up question, and I'll turn it back to JoAnn, but maybe a little bit of a business-related question again, just to give people a feel for the scope of the project and the amount of work involved. When you put everybody together, yourself and everybody that helped you, just roughly speaking, how many hours did it take to do this?
I don't even want to say, oh my goodness, because you think about it, all the hours getting these songs together, all the hours road testing them. This is my first live CD, my first. This is it's my fifth album, but my first live CD. Frank Sinatra would go in and just sing a song down twice. If they didn't get it, he said, I don't have it today. I'll come back tomorrow. You know, live is different than you get to get every little thing right in the studio. And if you count the hours getting these songs together, performing them time and time again live, to the point where you can just perform it and it's ready for a recording, Sal. And then you have all the musicians who were involved in this: Mark Strickland on guitar, Lou Stallute on sax, George Jones on conga drums. We even have Roy Ruzicka playing an acoustic guitar on one of our songs. You just start at it, and then all the licensing of the songs, the entrepreneurial piece of putting the copyrights and getting the song onto Spotify and iTunes and Apple. And do you want to do a hard copy CD? A lot of people aren't buying CDs today. How does that work? The hours. And so I can't even say. I mean, it's just a labor of love, and you hope you shine a light with this music and lift people up and inspire them to do their thing a little better and with a little bit of a kinder attitude. So I hope the music inspires people. But I will say, Sal, to your point about the entrepreneurial jazz networking happy hours I've done, and some of the things where I've combined entrepreneurial networking and jazz, that arose out of a need, like everything entrepreneurial, right? It arose out of a need. I had a jazz club come to me and say, we need to get more people to come in here. Can you do a program for us to shine a light on our jazz club and get more people from all walks of life, young to old, all races, all ideas in here? Then I came up with this idea of an entrepreneurial jazz happy hour, basically. And, that ran for 10 years every week until I got tired of the weekly, because a lot of the jazz clubs were closing down and it was harder to find a great venue. And then I took it to monthly. And we even have been doing that, at the Rivers Club on Wednesday Night Live. We were doing the last Wednesday of every month before COVID hit. We were featuring a lot of innovators. But now I'm looking to do some things virtually, that way. And so I think the whole theme now for the silver lining for COVID, for all the entrepreneurs, is to learn to go virtual, learn to go outside of your four walls, however you define your prior four walls with pre-COVID. And it involves some pain. We have to learn how to use technology in different ways. But if you're willing to go through that painful learning curve, and guess what, team and collaborate with others, the whole world is your playground.
The universe. I'm Empress. So, I wanted to ask Maxine Sullivan. You're very passionate about her. How did you discover her?
I think it was a spiritual thing. I mean, I believe very much in God. I don't really care what religion anybody happens to practice. I just really personally believe in a spiritual connection with the unseen, whatever the source of unconditional love is and how you define it. And I have a strong personal relationship with what I call God. And I was sick. I had laryngitis. I wasn't allowed to speak, or I could injure my vocal cords. The voice doctor had me isolating. I got online because I was so sad and lonely. And I went on YouTube like I normally do to find great music. And I found Maxine Sullivan singing Come Rain or Come Shine. That's a song I have been singing for years. Pittsburgh has a jazz dialect. You know how every region has a way of speaking? If you go to North Carolina, they have a different way of speaking than a Pittsburgh accent. There's accents. We have that in our music as well. Maxine kind of, to me, had a Pittsburgh accent, a jazz accent. I recognized how she sang Come Rain or Come Shine, and I thought, man, she could have been a teacher of mine or a mentor to me, and I've really never heard about her too much. Here, I've been singing professionally for years. I really started researching her and finding out that she was from Pittsburgh, from Homestead. And I started listening to her singing, and she sang with Louis Armstrong, and she sang for decades. Now, she moved from Pittsburgh eventually to New York City, where she had a big, long career. And in 1987, she was coming back to sing in the Mellon Jazz Festival, but she died before she could come back. But I just got hip to her, and I learned all about her and what an amazing pioneer and innovator, jazz entrepreneur she was. And so, then her music began influencing my music in an even deeper way. It was luck, or if you believe in more than luck, maybe a little more than luck.
One of the things that you and I have talked about is the change right now that we're all going through. And thank God for Sal, who conducts this meeting. Thank you. I can't tell you how many times he sends me a link. So you are a master. So what do you see? You say people have to, this COVID's changed us. For musicians, what do you see happening for them?
Yeah. Two things. First, when COVID hit, I had a big lag in business. People said to me, for example, just people who study voice and music, or I do some coaching with them entrepreneurially, legacy coaching, whatever we do together. They were used to being one-on-one with me, right? And then they said when COVID hit, well, let's just wait until we can get back together, because we don't like to look at a screen as much as we like to be in person with you. I get that, especially when I can be at a piano teaching somebody how to sing, how to play. So we took a couple months off. Then what happened is everybody realized, okay, this is going to go on a little longer than we all thought. Mm-hmm. If we don't go virtual with you, Jess, we might not, do the coaching with you for a while, study or whatever it is that you want to do. So all of a sudden, everybody got back together with me and said, we want to do Zoom or, with you, or use some other technology platform and get it going again. And then I became more busy than I was pre-COVID, because I took the time to come up these technology learning curves. And they're still steep when it comes to, I'm trying to do great sound quality when I play the piano and sing at my own piano. That's the toughest. That, and if I could sing with the two of you together right now, simultaneous sound. We have a delay in our internet connection, so it's easy to talk to each other, or I sing and then you sing, but it's harder to sing together. So we still have some technology opportunities for technology entrepreneurs out there who want to make a lot of money. They can solve those problems, and a lot of music departments and colleges will pay them, others. But I think that I think a lot of people may have seen at the beginning of COVID a little bit of a lag in their businesses, and then they figured out how to go virtual.
By the way, I love it that you addressed that, because when I knew we were going to do this chat today, the two things that you addressed were exactly what came to my mind. I said, I know depending on your internet speed, there's a small latency there, 10, 20 milliseconds. And I'm thinking for normal conversation, that's not a big deal. But I was thinking, okay, if you want to play an instrument together or play an instrument and sing whatever, is that 10 or 20 milliseconds going to really throw you off? And then the other one, of course, is, unless you have a really sophisticated setup, if you just have like a laptop or normal speakers, are you going to get the sufficient sound range to make things look good? So I'm very happy that you addressed it before I even asked that. Let me ask you a question, slightly different tangent. When you first started developing the passion for music and singing, was your family supportive? Were the significant other people in your life, friends, supportive, or was it more like, hey, listen, Jessica, that's all great, but really plan on being a lawyer and earning your living that way?
I was surrounded with fear. Yeah, I was surrounded with fear-based thinking. I was surrounded with fear-based thinking. And it was something that in every single relationship, except for the relationship that I developed with my longest time jazz mentor, Tony Jamflone Sr., the dad of Tony Jamflone Jr., almost everybody else in my life presented with fear-based thinking. And I get it. I got it then. I get it now. Being an entrepreneurial musician is a hard life. You need to go out and sing at all these different venues. You're traveling around. You're staying out late. You're working really hard at many levels. You have to diversify your income streams. You have to teach. You have to do some entrepreneurial coaching. You need to do social entrepreneurship, which I do. I have a whole specialty in legacy planning, investment and business counseling. You have to be really entrepreneurial, and you have to be really brave, because you're out there with the general public a lot in situations that aren't always necessarily 100% safe sometimes. I get it. It's not for the weak of heart, and it's not for somebody who's weary. You have to have a lot of energy to get out there and wake up and say, I'm going to be courageous again, because it's a tough life. But for me, it was a calling. And I knew that at a very young age, that when I would make music live with others, I found heaven on earth. It might have been hell getting to that stage. It might be hell getting home from that stage. But I found heaven on earth when we were making music together and we're in the live music with the audience members. And I found healing energy there. And the music has the power for healing, not only of the listeners, but of those who are making the music as well. So again, going back to my spiritual relationship and connection with God, I knew I was going to do it. So I learned to be very quiet about some of my deepest hopes and dreams, and just work really, really hard, and only share those hopes and dreams with those who wouldn't be too afraid to listen and support. Tony Jamflone Sr. wasn't afraid. He encouraged me during my darkest times. He encouraged me through my darkest struggles. He taught me how to be a super strong musician, not just a singer. He taught me how to be kind in business, how to be always kind in business, which is an invaluable lesson. So I take my hat off to Tony Jamflone Sr. We always say with you with love. So if Tony sees this ever, I'm with him with love, and his family's my family. And he taught me how to have music family, jazz family. And so I want to shout out to the mentors out there, everybody who mentors, who's been mentored. And I continue to look for mentor opportunities, both to be a mentee and keep learning, and a mentor when I'm asked.
Let me ask the question. You and I, well, I've been in business longer than you, but you've been in business. When I started my business, my mother was horrified. Like, a woman starting, she was parading candidates for me to marry again. I mean, it was like, all stops, no, all stops, you can't do this. But she came from the Depression, where the family lost a business, and my dad's family lost a business, significant business. So there's a lot of, if you say fear-based, and my mantra was, I go where angels fear to tread,
There's a song with that lyric in it. Yeah.
I know. As a woman, what were some of the obstacles, or were there, that you encountered?
Oh, JoAnn, I mean, we don't have enough time for the to talk about the sexual harassment I have had to put up with at all levels, attempts at sexual assault, while I've been a woman entrepreneur. And I'll shout out to a couple of other people in this answer. In a nutshell, I've had a gun pulled on me, 2 knives. I have been in a cab in Toronto, and the guy threatened to abduct me and told me what he was going to do to me. And, I had to talk myself out of that one and almost rolled out of the cab. I've been in some tremendously difficult situations as a woman, and men don't really understand how unsafe it is sometimes for a woman going alone to a business meeting, a gig, a jazz show, and sometimes what the world feels like as somebody who is not usually the predator, a woman. It's mostly men who are, and you're more often the prey. And men don't always understand what that's like. They just go into a cab and feel differently than a woman can often feel. And so I realized, early on that it's good to have strength in numbers and keep people with you and around you, your team. And you really just try not to isolate yourself ever. But it's a different world for women entrepreneurs, for women leaders, and it's much more unsafe. I hate to say that, but traveling and just anywhere where you are isolated, it's a different fear level, a different level of caution. Now you have to just learn how to be really smart about that. And again, going back to one of my jazz mentors, Tony Jamplin Sr., he would, for example, never let anybody, whether you're a man or a woman, leave a gig alone. Nobody left a jazz show at night alone. We would walk each other to our cars. We would care about each other that way. And so, team, again, that's an entrepreneurial concept, but even for safety, team. And I think that Maxine Sullivan, if you get into her story, and many of the women who traveled with a lot of the men to sing and perform, they have a lot of tough stories about harassment and assault. And so that's very real. We could have a whole nother program on that kind of, that kind of an issue. Now, when I joined one of my nonprofit ventures, I'm proud to be a vice president with Pittsburgh Gateways Corporation, which is a beautiful nonprofit I've worked with for years and years and years. And we've collaborated on many beautiful ventures, social ventures. Franco Harris, the Crawford Grill, is one of those. Franco's leading. He's been quietly, putting plans together to bring the Crawford Grill #2 back in the middle of the Hill District. And everybody I've worked with there, every single man I've worked with in that sphere has been nothing but a wonderful colleague. And man, is that refreshing when you find people who respect each other, treat each other well and with kindness. I recognize that as something to be admired and respected, and that respect to be always returned. And so the good ones, men and women who treat each other well, you got to hold them close, keep them in your inner circle. The ones who have a tendency to want to misbehave and treat people, bully people, treat people with a lack of respect, you can work with them, but you got to keep them on your outer circles, and you got to be careful. So it's a tough world out there, and I pray for everybody who does bully. I pray for everybody who's unkind. They just don't get it yet. They're struggling with their own demons. And so I don't dislike, I don't hate back. I just pray for them. And we have to, all of us, learn how to do business with respect, even when people have different views, and with kindness. And there's just no place in the world for threats and assaults, But women, we see it all the time, right, JoAnn? We see it all the time.
Yeah.
And Jessica, let me ask you a question kind of related to that, because I've had the opportunity to meet and talk with a lot of musicians and artists, entertainers, and first of all, as you were alluding to, it's a lifestyle. Like different professions have different lifestyles, right? So you're traveling a lot, you're working till 2, 3 in the morning, which means you're sleeping in late and things like that. Do you see a lot of drug use in your profession, maybe because of that or whatever? And also, and I know you kind of talked a little bit about this, but when you're having that lifestyle, which again may be involved in general, drugs, sometimes alcohol. I know musicians, they get their free drinks at the bar, whatever. And now you're up till 3 in the morning, you're sleeping late, you're in a different city every day. does that impact your interpersonal relationships and in terms of, having friends or do you have to circumscribe yourself to friends that are also in that lifestyle?
Sal, that is such a great question. You don't even know. So I would like to say that some people know that, I've had a lot of experience as investment and business counsel in part of my life and on the entrepreneurial side. And I've seen as much struggle in corporate America with drugs and alcohol abuse as I've seen in the jazz and the music world, just as much. I mean, there is a poverty of spirit, as people struggle against addiction in corporate America, big corporate America, as well as small entrepreneurship and music. But I will tell you that musicians have a special struggle because our workplace has a bar sometimes, or a workplace has people offering you free drinks, where you don't always get that in the morning, at least in corporate America. You get it at happy hour. But I will say that what I've noticed, and I encourage everybody to find mentors. I don't care how old you are. If you want to do something new, find a mentor who's doing it well. I've watched what my mentors have done, and here's what they've done. They tend to go one of two ways, and I don't see much in the middle during a long career. They either say, I'm either not drinking and I'm not drugging at all, or like I have one drink, right? One or two all night, and I cap it and there's no room, or I'm drinking more than that, no room. It's one drink or two, done. Switch over to ginger ale or water. They have a plan like that, or they drink a lot. And then the drinking a lot tends to become they drink more, and then they drink more, and it's a slippery slope. And by the time a couple years go by, they're struggling with a real problem. And it's impacted their personal lives. It's impacted their professional life. And so, everybody in America is struggling with the impact of addiction. It's a big issue, but with the right mentorship, with the right tools and therapies, with the right mentors, and again, it matters who you have around you, right, in your inner circle. It matters who you have around you. If you have people who are cognizant of health, mental health, physical health, emotional health, and they care about you and you care about them, you can be an entrepreneurial musician and really not struggle with those addiction problems. But it takes a lot of discipline, to be very honest. It takes a lot of discipline. And that leads me to one other thing. During COVID, the markets have changed for live music. The markets are changing. So you mentioned, Sal, staying up super late in bars. Well, a lot of things have changed even before COVID. We're at a supper club earlier. People haven't been staying out as late like that, like they used to. So I've seen a lot of happy hour earlier performances, supper club, concert type things, charitable things where kids can come as well. And then when COVID hit, now I've seen new markets, especially Music for Healing, where people can take me on the Zoom and take me into a hospital, and I can sing for somebody in the hospital. I can sing in places where I couldn't sing before, and there are new markets. And some of those markets don't involve alcohol and that whole lifestyle. Yeah. So the virtual thing actually could bring us new markets where you don't have to always be in those same workspaces with those same hazards.
Okay, my mind's now creating a new business. We've been let's move into a wrap up, because I know Jessica has a 10:30 appointment. Sal, what would you like to ask Jessica?
Well, I just want to shout out to the two of you right now. So Sal and JoAnn, what you're doing to me right now is so important. During COVID and this pandemic, you're connecting with other people. You're shining a light on other people. You're listening to their stories. It's so important that we connect with each other during COVID. And I hope the lessons we learn during COVID, like how we go virtual and stay connected to each other and help each other, collaborate with each other, find major needs in the marketplace, like beating addiction and healing people together with our collective talents. I hope that the collaboration, the virtual collaboration, the caring enough to reach out, that those silver lining lessons last beyond COVID. And you two are doing that right now. And I take my hat off to you because it's a beautiful thing. And at the end of the day, people need people. We need to check in on each other and say, how are you? And I don't care if you're far right, far left, or really dead in the middle politically. How are you? Are you doing okay? Can we help each other? Can we talk to each other with kindness? Can we collaborate? Can we build bridges? You're doing that from our city of bridges, Pittsburgh. You're doing that, and you don't know how important that is. And I want to say thank you to you.
Well, listen, from my perspective, let me just say thank you for sharing some time with us and joining us on the show, because normally we have much more, I don't know what the word is, maybe dry business type interviews, and yours has been very refreshing in the sense that it's full of art, it's full of spiritual energy, it's full of, you know, challenges, because you certainly laid out some challenges and some problems, but certainly a lot more hope than challenges. So thank you for doing that and being with us.
Well, I've always said the one thing I don't want for my life, I don't want it to be dull. I don't want to be bored. That hasn't happened. I haven't been bored, Sal and JoAnn. And I look forward to partnering with you both going forward. I hope we can find ways.
One of you said, and I think I'm just putting this in your idea to think of. I'd like to do at least a whole hour of talking about the challenges that women entrepreneurs face. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, the challenges and some of the simple ways that you can overcome those challenges. Because I think today, Sal, to your point, we need to say, yeah, life is hard, but hope, faith, hope, and love, they're tougher. They're tougher than the challenges. Faith, hope, and love. People think that's soft. That's not soft. That's tough. And we can together find ways to overcome even the most difficult challenges. So yeah, I'd be up for that anytime, JoAnn.
Okay. My final question is, what is it that you want people to remember you for?
I would like people to remember me loving them. That here's a person that believed that through music and through entrepreneurship, you could focus on other people and inspire and lift them up. That it really isn't about me at all, that it was just a person who really loved people and wanted to use the gifts that God gave her to be helpful to them, even in a small way. I believe that Mother Teresa is one of my heroes, and people asked her, why did you do what you did in your life and left a pretty comfortable life to help other people? And she said, I'm a tiny pencil in the hand of a writing God, sending a love letter to the world. And so I don't really, I'm not sure that I care that people remember me so much as I hope that the music I leave behind and the inspiration and the love that I gave to others, God through me to them, helped a little bit, and that the focus isn't necessarily on me at all.
Sal, let's do a wrap up.
Yeah, maybe last question is as a wrap up. Do you have from your as an artist any regrets, big or small, that you say, John, you know, I didn't take that gig, I wish I had, or I did this and I wish I hadn't? Any big or small regrets from an artistic perspective?
That's a hard question to answer, because I think we can all look back 2020 with hindsight and say, man, I wish I would have done this or that.
Yeah.
I do have some of that. Probably the biggest regret is that I didn't embrace learning the details of the business earlier. Mm-hmm. I I delegated some things early in my music life to other business people before I understood them totally. So I couldn't really manage the people I was delegating to, Sal, because I didn't learn all those details myself first. Like, you got to put the time in to learn about how recordings sell, how recordings reach people, right? If you trust other people, sometimes they take advantage of you if you don't really understand how to manage them or evaluate what they're doing for you. So my one regret is I would have put the painful time into learning the details of the business side a little earlier before I delegated and trusted people. I have been, you know, we've all delegated some things and it hasn't worked out right that well. So, but I will say the more honest answer is no, I don't regret anything, because I really did the best I could with what I had at the time. And I've learned, and I'm making changes now. And I am putting together different types of teams now. And I have better information about how to evaluate if a team member is the right team member for that role. And so I don't have regrets. I stand here where I am now saying, with the two of you, we're in the right place right now. Everything we've done has brought us to this moment. Every mistake we've made, we've learned something that's brought us to this moment. And now it's up to us if we learn the lessons and change and make those changes going forward entrepreneurially. So I hope I do better rather than worse going forward.
Okay. Well, and listen, as a wrap up, I'll just say this, by the way. I am thrilled that even though, again, we've talked about a lot of art and your artistic career, you've given people a lot of really good business advice. So if there's entrepreneurs out there that are listening, that their career is going to be separate from music or separate from the arts, I think they're getting a lot of really valuable business advice out of this conversation. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I loved this, the combination of the arts and entrepreneurship with you guys. And as far as entrepreneurial mindset, I just like to throw out one book that I recommend to everybody that's helped me along the way that you wouldn't think of as a book for entrepreneurial mindset, but it is. It really helps with emotional intelligence, EQ, and it's The 7 Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. And it's a very tiny book, 7 chapters for 7 days of the week. But man, it's jam-packed with how to have a great entrepreneurial mindset, tough-minded optimism. And I recommend it to everybody. And there's a lot of books I recommend. I recommend working on your mindset every day. But I loved being here with you. And I really thank you guys for reaching out to me.
You're welcome. I'm going to do a wrap because I know you have another Zoom conference, even though we could talk all day. Good seeing you. This is JoAnn Forrester, the Empress of Biz, with the Duke of Business, Sal Acosta. We are very thankful that Jessica Lee took the time so early in the morning to talk to us. And I'm really thankful that Sal got up on time. And we wish all a good day. And my final advice for the day is, when you choose not to have hope, that's when you actually give up. No matter what, when you have hope, things happen. And I've been there, done that, and believe me, I'm here when I shouldn't have been here. So we're here. Thank you for your time. Have a great weekend, and I'm going to see you this weekend. Stay on for a minute afterwards. Thank you all. Have a great and prosperous sub-week.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.